Winter is coming, and I am itching to get back in the forge. I've spent almost 6 months rehabbing from just a massive shoulder surgery, and man, I'm really, really looking forward to getting back into the forge and working with some hot iron. The problem is I don't have a full-time forge. What I have is a 10 by 10 pop-up tent with an anvil and a crappy propane forge and a makeshift post vise. Well, the post vise is great. It's the stand that's makeshift. I've decided to do something about it. I'm going to build a forge. I talked to the city and tried to go that route. So I have another idea. I'm going to build a forge right here by the garage, and I won't ever have to forge in the wet in a tent anymore. It'll be a temporary, permanent structure. In truth, the city of Seattle wouldn't let me expand the garage, and they were kind of a pain in the ass about it. So I'm going with a temporary building, and now it's a metal building framed by Versatube. I'm putting it together, and it's just the most elegant, cost-efficient solution and space-efficient solution that I can do right now. So that's what I'm doing. Also, it being steel and me forging in it with fire, there's less likelihood of me catching it on fire. So I'm really looking forward to the steel part of the building. So when shopping, really the only building that fit my space requirements was one of the Versatube cart corrals. And so that's what I ended up with, a shopping cart corral next to the garage that became my forge. So the steel came in for the roof of the forge blacksmith shop. I am ecstatic not to have to move the anvil or forge or the vise around anymore, just have one dedicated spot. Now, I know it's surprising that the roof is red if you know my wife. She picked the color, and that's just how it had to be. But I like it, and happy wife, happy life. We got a special delivery from Versatube today. This is the structure for the new forge. It's in the garage right now, but I'll take it out tomorrow and start putting it together. Alright, everything's out of the crate and staged and ready to go. As soon as it stops raining, I'll start putting her together. Well, Karma heard that one, and it rained here for, a good solid 7 days, just making everything miserable. Alright, here we go. And this is what the area looked like prior to the forge build. At end of day 1. There was one little incident though. It's right here. I put my my foot on this stretcher of the sawhorse to get up and screw one of the rafters together, and it broke. Now, that could be because of 200 pounds of sweet, sweet dad bod, but I don't think that's it. I think that it is because these are 11 years old. They have lived their entire life outside, and the wood is weak. Yeah, that's it. I'm not fat. It's the wood. It's definitely the wood. Alright, we're ready to put the roof on. Now, some of the steps that with this sort of building you have to take is I had to make sure that the sides were level this way, which you can see they're spot on. And then I had to make sure that they were leveled this way, and so I used the level and the longer straight edge just to make sure that they weren't off this way, so we're good. And then I checked my my cross distance measurement and then got that up. Actually, from inside post to outside post, it's actually 201 inches and a quarter on both sides. So that way I know that my box for this building is square. So when I put the roof on, that my roof will be square. So the plan now is I'm going to do this centerpiece and then sheathe all the way down on this side, and then either I'm going to use my big old monkey brain and some plastic pipes and some wood for rollers, and I'm going to roll it in place, or I'm going to con 5 friends fully masked up to come over and give me a hand. We're going to pick it up and move it into place. Not real sure what I can do at this point. So I got a little bit of a late start today. It was raining, and as I'm of a certain age and my wife doesn't want me to go to the hospital anymore because there's been a lot of trips, I don't work on roofs in the rain, especially steel roofs on a ladder using power tools. So I had to wait until it stopped raining. This side of the roof and the side panel are on. Now the whole thing needs to shift this way, close to the edge of the garage, so that I can do this section of roof and this down panel, and then there and there. All right, so since I'm doing it by myself, I got to use some ingenuity. So here's what I did. I used the handyman jack off the Jeep and jacked up one side of the structure and put it on rollers, and I'm going to roll it that way. Side note, next project, I'm going to rebuild this rusty thing. I don't want to say dirty words, but I really do. So I actually already went on Amazon and ordered the spring kit for this thing. I'm going to sandblast it, and I'm going to put new springs in it, because at this point this thing is a just jawbreaker. Sheathing is on, and it's time to move this bad boy into its forever home. That way. There's no bees in there. The hives are dormant. So, all right. All right, so we're going to move this into place. Now, I don't recommend doing it this way. I recommend building your building exactly where it's going to go. I couldn't do that because I have 8 foot 1 inch there, and it's 8 foot on the other side, so I wouldn't be able to screw the panels together. So I built it away from where it's going to be, and I need to move it that way about 2 feet. And so what I've done is I've jacked it up and I put it on pipes for rollers. I put 2 2x4s. They're 8 feet, so that way I keep the width it's supposed to be as a strong back. And now I'm going to use some sweet old man strength slash dad bod to push this into place. I had to address the standing water issue, and after the forge was moved into place, I went ahead and got some gravel to bring the level up about 2 inches so that my forge wouldn't be sloppy wet. There's nothing like a little bit of gravel in the trailer. Luckily I have 3,500 pound axles there. So the internet's a funny place. I posted on Instagram as I was building this, and I got a bunch of comments about how I had run my studs the wrong way and what was the weird plywood for. I know I ran my studs the wrong way. It is not structural. All it's for is to hang the siding on the outside and to hang the door. So yeah, lots of armchair experts online. But now, why is there the plywood on the back of the stud? Well, let me show you. I had some scrap 1/2 inch, and I went ahead and cut it into 3-inch pieces. And it's so that when I put the flashing on the interior that is burn proof, hopefully, that it matches up with the structural pieces, and so that way I can take it all the way to the edge, all the way across. Little nighttime concrete mix. Footings are in. Now, as discussed, these are not load bearing or permanent because this is a temporary structure according to the city of Seattle. So they sit on top of the ground at about 6 inches below my 5/8 minus grade. I did put a couple pieces of rebar in, and I dropped 2 8-inch lag bolts and tied them to the rebar. Now the whole reason this is here is basically to keep my door from being hung on a wall just in the air. So this will give support to the door and make it so that this wall doesn't rattle. Here we go. And just in case anybody ever asks, I don't do concrete work. Nope. Nope. Well, the light isn't perfect, but I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, we'll go ahead and let that dry for another 24 hours and then put the 5/8 minus back in, and that little bit of concrete, it should be there a while, hopefully, maybe, hopefully. So for the interior flashing and for the pieces underneath the siding, I've got this galvanized valley flashing, and I just decided to do it myself. And I'm using the sweet Central Pneumatics a la Harbor Freight cutter, and it makes a really nice, neat job of these. Marking it with a square and not a Jimmy DiResta pick. But my machinist marker. Always wear gloves with sheet metal, always, even if you're just unspooling it, just always wear gloves. And then I just got a set of handy hand nippers as well. All right, let's get this done. I guarantee I'm going to cut myself, guarantee. So this is that small bit of flashing where the joint's going to go. Now it does not extend all the way down to the edge of the joint. Let me put a piece over and I'll show you. Alright, so you can see here the flashing, and what happens is when it runs down from the other piece onto this one, the flashing doesn't let it get behind. So also I've done this fairly tight in here, and it's winter time and everything's wet. So if this were summertime, I might leave like an 1/8 of an inch gap here, but because it's all swollen and everything, I'm butting it up nice and tight. That way when it dries out in the summer, then you know it'll start to gap, but it's gonna stay nice and tight in the winter. I didn't stack the seams on top of each other. I alternated every other side, but you can see kind of from the back side how that flashing works. So the siding, I actually had to go a cheaper route than I originally wanted to. I'm going to blame it on 2020, but what I ended up doing was using cedar fence boards, so untreated, and laying them in like so with an 1¼ inch overlap, and then using galvanized nails and fastening there at the top into structure. And so the bottom's free floating, so as they get wet they'll be free to expand and contract, and just the top portion is fastened. So it's traditional-ish lap siding made out of fence boards that I got for a deal for like $1.12 for each 6-foot piece. So it was considerably cheaper based on my new financial requirement for siding the shop. The door opening cut, I just used a Sawzall and just dropped it on the outside here and took it all the way down so it's nice and flush. So I'm going to do a little Shoshugiban action on what will be in my door for the forge. I got the yard torch out, and I'm going to set some stuff on fire. Fire! Fire. Magic alligator skin crackle I'm looking for. Got the bones of the door hung with only a moderate amount of fitting on that side. And I'm going to go ahead and clad it now. The screws for the hinges will match, I promise. The board and batten's in, the door's hung. Next step is to put the latch on and do the other side. What in the bejesus is that? It rains for 2 days pretty hard. I go in and there is water dripping from my ceiling. So my big 200-pound ass is up on this roof. I've got lumber laid out to keep me from falling through. But here's the culprit. So there are actually 4 sheets that all connect here. And as you can see, water pools in here, and it also pools over here. What's happening, or what it looks like, is that once it starts or stops pooling here, and you know, because there's so much rain, and it starts running over, it's running over and in. So I'm gonna have to get as much moisture out of here as possible, and then I'm gonna use some Henry's wet dry and sealed this and then the rest of them up. Well, this little repair job here makes me feel like an absolute hack. This is not how you fix a roof. This is not how you conduct a roof repair. This is half-assing something, and I hate to do that. I really would prefer to whole-ass it. Yeah. Alright, it is a design flaw. The only real fix would be to completely replace the panel, and I can't do that right now. So I'm going to see how well this works and then go from there. We've had 2 days of really heavy rain and I'm good. My Franken patch on the roof seems to have worked really well. No water anywhere inside. Alright. Still not super happy with how that looks. So this is my setup that I'm using to cut the flashing for the interior. It's, I mean, super simple, just a couple 2x4s, some clamps, and then I am marking where the cut goes and clamping on either side of the cut so the roll doesn't snap back and hit me in the face. And then I'm just cutting with a pair of shears. It's super easy. I think setup is the hardest. The actual cuts, it's like butter. So one of the things about having this project and revisiting some old skills is I get to break out some tools I hadn't used in years. This Malco sheet metal hammer was my dad's, and I literally haven't used this thing at all in 22 years. Man, that ages me. But yeah, I need to pay some attention to the handle, maybe give it some sanding and some poly, but worked like a charm. And the interior is complete. I really wish I would have had a proper roller for the sheet metal to take the bend out of the flashing. I've got some crinkles there, but it's not an airplane. I can have some crinkles. For the most part, I used self-taps in the seams here and there. I did end up using some pop rivets, but only because it just made me happy. Yeah, and then I got to use the hammer, and I went ahead and rolled the edges of the doors to keep you from getting scratched or your clothes cut or whatever going in and out the door. So those edges are nice and rolled. Pretty happy about that. Pretty happy how it all turned out. It should be, for the most part, fireproof. I get that there is a little wood exposed here. But I don't think an errant spark here in the forge is going to cause an issue with that. Here we go. So grand opening, as it were. The outside is finished. I do need to still oil everything up. I can't do that until it stops raining, and this winter has been really, really wet, as you've seen. So again, I shoshugeboned the door. I think it turned out really nicely. I did add a little bit of flair with some lanterns, just because I don't have a sign up because I don't need a sign anyway. There's the forge. I've got a prop for the door because I don't want to ever forge without the door open. I don't really want to suffocate myself, you know. All right, so come with me and I'll show you what we have. There's plenty of room in here. Again, it's 7'6" to the top, so plenty of room to swing a hammer. Anvil's in the middle. I've got my post vise here. I'm going to add just a little bit to this as far as like for tooling and stuff. Post vise is there. I've got the striking anvil here with the 14-pounder. I've got an 8-pounder too. But the striking anvil won't stay here. Like, you're not going to strike here. It'll move where it needs to move. I've got my forge stand in and my new forge. I'm building this up specifically for this project, so you will there'll be a coming video on that, but I wanted to have it in. I've got a chalkboard in place that I'm working on. I haven't sealed it up yet, but just for being able to put my thoughts on something, or if I need to measure something up. like so, and I want to mock it up, I can mock it up real time here on the board and then copy it. So anyway, the new hammer and tong rack is in. Ken's Custom Iron really hooked me up with this. I couldn't be happier. I got some of the hammers in, some of my tools, some of the tongs. It'll be more populated as the shop gets used more and more. But really happy. Now you saw all of this going on. Yeah, I only have one little issue so far, and that's moisture. It's a metal building without insulation, so I have a little bit of a moisture issue. I am taking care of that. Apparently what I need to do is dehumidify with a fan and a heater, and so I'm going to put a vent fan over here to help draw the moisture out when the forge isn't heated and in use. If you stuck with me through the whole video, I super appreciate it. I really do. I'm excited for the forge. I'm excited for what's coming this winter and for what's going to be made here. Thanks again. I really appreciate you following me along the journey of building this forge and sticking to the end of the video. It is very much appreciated. Thank you.